You are watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. The death toll in last week's massive earthquake in Myanmar has passed 2,000. As accounts of some people's last moments emerged, 200 Buddhist monks were crushed by a collapsing monastery. Bangladesh's interim government advisor Mohammad Yunus has tried to jab New Delhi by issuing a veiled threat to India's northeastern states while appealing to China to extend in the region. Mr. Yunus, who was on a 4-day visit to Beijing last week, asked Beijing to make an extension, saying that the 7 sister states are landlocked by Bangladesh to its west. US President Donald Trump hints that Elon Musk's time as a senior White House advisor may be coming to an end. As per reports, the Kremlin says that some American companies have shown interest in joint rare earth metals projects in Russia, but cautioned that such discussions were still at an early stage. Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has warned former King Gyanendra Shah of severe action, holding him responsible for the violence that erupted during last week's pro-monarchy protests in Kathmandu. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says the US would receive a strong blow if it acts on Donald Trump's threat to bomb unless Tehran reaches a new nuclear deal with Washington. Well, a big focus, US President Donald Trump's fast approaching Liberation Day sent stock markets swinging sharply worldwide. In fact, on Wall Street, the S&P 500 rose 0.6% in another roller coaster day after being down as much as 1.7% during the morning. But the reversal helped the index shave its loss for the first 3 months of the year to 4.6%, making it the worst quarter in 2.5 years. The Dow Jones Industrial Average also swerved higher after erasing an initial loss, and it climbed 417 points or 1%. But such neck twisting, these neck twisting turns have become routine for the US stock market recently because of uncertainty about what Trump will do with tariffs and by how much they will worsen inflation and grind down growth for economies. For further clarity, we have with us on the broadcast global economist Mithali Nikore joining us. Mithali, as always, thanks so much for making time for us currently. Now, the first quarter of 2025 has seen significant market downturns, with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ posting their worst quarterly performances since 2022, if I'm not mistaken, largely due to Trump's tariffs. Mithali, how do you assess the long-term impact of these tariffs, not just on US markets, but also on global trade dynamics?
So I think, first of all, Parmeshwar, thanks a lot for having me on your show.
Our pleasure.
And, the way I'm sort of seeing this unravel, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because at one point in the 1990s, when the president was Bill Clinton, we were in this liberalization era. We were in this era of, unlocking the competitive advantage of various countries, and the World Trade Organization was really at its strongest point. And today, it's almost feeling like it's a complete U-turn from there. And we're in this era today where, Mr. Trump can decide at any point to impose any sort of tariff on any country. And, from on April 2nd, we're definitely going to see reciprocal tariffs come into effect, which is that, if you are imposing an X percentage of custom duties or tariffs on any goods that are imported from the US, then exactly the same tit for tat tariff gets applied to your country pretty much automatically on that same commodity. And then on top of that, he's also speaking about automobile tariffs, which is an additional 25% on top of the reciprocal tariff. And then the third one being country-specific tariffs, which are, of course, altered at this point for Canada and Mexico because of the discussions. But on top of that, countries like Venezuela coming into the net, of course, China is in the net. So, we really have to see, we are going to see a new era of uncertainty. And this is really going to isolate the US from global trade. I feel that a lot of global supply chains will, be re-emerging because of this.
That's a very interesting perspective. As always, Mithali, thanks so much for making time for us and joining us with your quick views. Trump's economic agenda, we've seen, seems to lean heavily on protectionist measures. Many say that these tariffs, especially on key sectors like tech and consumer goods, they ripple through emerging economies, particularly India, which is heavily integrated into global supply chains. We'll have to wait and watch how exactly this plays out. I must also mention that Goldman Sachs has raised the probability of a US recession to 35% as we speak. Meanwhile, the other big story we're tracking, Iran would have to acquire a nuclear weapon if attacked by the United States or its allies. An advisor to the country's supreme leader has warned following a threat by the US president. Now, these comments came after Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei promised to hit back if Donald Trump carried out a threat to bomb the Islamic Republic if it did not make a deal to curb its nuclear program. As we reported, Trump had said on Saturday there will be bombing if Iran did not agree to a nuclear deal. And according to NBC News, he also threatened to punish Tehran with what he called secondary tariffs. Meanwhile, the Iranian commander has warned that the US bases are in amid Trump threats. Just listen in to his remarks.
امریکایی‌ها در منطقه حداقل در اطراف ایران 10 پایگاه دارن. 50,000 نفر نیرو هم دارن. یعنی در یک اتاقک شیشه‌ای نشستن. کسی که تو اتاقک شیشه‌ای هست سمت کسی سنگپرانی نمی‌کنه.
Right, while we line up that reaction for you, I must also bring you up to date that Washington and Moscow have begun discussions on projects related to Russian rare earth metals. Reports state, quoting the head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund. Now, he said some companies have already expressed interest in this project without going into much detail, but reports further state that the cooperation may be further discussed at the next round of Russia-US talks that may take place in a couple of weeks in Saudi Arabia. And switching tracks, Elon Musk's time as a senior White House advisor may be coming to an end. US President Donald Trump hinted that Elon Musk, who leads the government-slashing Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, might soon return to running Tesla. And in fact, Musk's role as a temporary government employee is capped at 130 days, meaning his tenure could end by May. While DOGE has fired thousands of federal employees, public backlash is growing as we speak, with a recent poll showing that most Americans believe the effort is hurting their country. Musk, however, claims DOGE will have cut the US deficit by $1 trillion before he leaves, supposedly in May. And with that, let's turn our attention to the other crucial story we've been tracking since Friday. The number of deaths from a major earthquake in Myanmar has risen to 2,056. India has delivered a fresh lot of 50 tons of relief materials to Myanmar. Meanwhile, in Thailand's Bangkok, at least 18 people have died after a skyscraper crumbled when the earthquake in Myanmar rattled several neighboring countries. In fact, the government has announced an investigation into the cause of the collapse of the tower, which was being built by a Chinese company and a long-established Thai construction firm. But authorities in Thailand are investigating possible factors that led to this devastating collapse of a Bangkok construction site, where dozens remain missing on Monday, 3 days after that massive earthquake centered in Myanmar. My colleague Vishal Vivek has been in Bangkok tracking all the finer developments for us. In fact, he joins us live currently. Vishal, what are the latest developments?
So Parmeshwar, the latest is that Thai watchdog was already keeping this project under scanner. This huge pile of rubble right behind me, this mountain of ruin that we can see in the distance, not too far from us. And this whole project was under the scanner of the Thai watchdog. That was the reason cited by the Thai watchdog, is that there had been long delays in the project. And we also spoke with some local people here, some local residents who live nearby this area. They also told me that they had seen this huge 33-tower building, 33-story building stand here mysteriously for years, and there had been no developments on that front. And suddenly there was some construction work going on, a lot of people had come in. So this aura of mystery was there for a while now, and that it suddenly crumbled like a pancake. burying underneath it at least 70 construction workers, mostly reportedly from the neighboring country of Myanmar. Although many Thai residents have also been trapped, we have also spoken to one of the relatives of the family. Even she told us yesterday that her partner had told her months before this tragedy that one of the pillars was quite faulty, and he had also gone on to report it to the authorities, but no action was taken. And also the fact that this huge inquiry has been ordered that has been given 7 days to report back. It's been already 4 days of the incident, so we can hear back from that committee, that probe committee, in the next 2 to 3 days. And you can see in the distance the cranes are at it for the last 4 days now. It's a huge pile of mess, as you can see. The steel beams, the window panes, there are at least 4 different kinds of debris that need to be segregated. They need to be transported out from here because there's hardly any place here to keep the debris. And this whole place, it is also every now and then when there's a wind blowing, you can feel that, you can smell that stench in the air, supposedly of the rotten bodies buried underneath the mountain of rubble there. Authorities have not commented on that. They have not been able to pull out anyone alive so far. It's been 4 days, and they have already told us that there's a less 1% of survival chance there. So it's a really grim picture, and it continues to be a grim picture. We've been reporting on it for the last 4 days.
Yes.
And there are rescue missions going on as we speak.
Right.
There have been international cooperation from US to France to Israel. So
Yes.
all of that has been going on, but it's far from anything positive that we can report right now.
Vishal, thank you so much for joining us with that crucial update from Bangkok. Grim scenes from Bangkok 4 days later, with the authorities saying that there's a 1% chance of survival as we speak. Meanwhile, with that, let's turn our attention now to Bangladesh, where the interim government advisor Mohammad Yunus has tried to jab New Delhi by issuing a veiled threat to India's northeastern states, while appealing to China to extend in the region. Mr. Yunus, who, as we reported, was on a 4-day visit to Beijing last week, asked Beijing to make an extension, saying that the 7 sister states are landlocked by Bangladesh to its west. This tongue-in-cheek remark, which defense analysts have called distasteful, surfaced on social media upon Mohammad Yunus's return to Bangladesh. In fact, in the video, he is seen urging the Chinese government to extend in the region. We have that reaction lined up for you. Just listen in.
7 states of India, eastern part of India, called 7 sisters. They are landlocked country, landlocked region of India. They have no way to reach out to the ocean. We are the only guardian of the ocean for all this region. So this opens up a huge possibility. So this could be an extension of the Chinese economy, build things, produce things, market things, bring things to China, bring it out to the whole rest of the world.
This, by the way, as Dhaka tries hard to arrange a standalone meeting between our Prime Minister Modi, and Bangladesh's interim government chief advisor Mohammad Yunus in Bangkok this week, along the sidelines of the BIMSTEC summit. In fact, the Ministry of External Affairs is yet to respond regarding this matter. Meanwhile, it's been nearly 2 weeks now since the pair of stranded NASA astronauts returned to Earth earlier this month. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, who recently returned to Earth after getting stuck for more than 9 months in space, they have said that they would be willing to board the Boeing Starliner spacecraft again for traveling to space in the future. In fact, we have a reaction lined up for you. Listen in.
India is amazing. Every time we went over the Himalayas, and I'll tell you, Butch got some incredible pictures of the Himalayas, just amazing. I hope, and I think for sure, I'm going to be going back to my father's home country and visiting with people and getting excited about the first, or not the first, but the Indian astronauts who's going up on the Axiom mission coming up. Pretty awesome. They'll have a hometown hero there of their own that will be able to talk about how wonderful the International Space Station is from his perspective. But I hope I can meet up at some point in time and we can share our experiences with as many people in India as possible, because it's a great country, another wonderful democracy that's trying to put its foot in the space countries, and we'd love to be part of that and help them along.
Do you plan to take your crew members on that trip with you?
Absolutely. You might stick out a little bit, but that's okay. We'll get you all primed with some spicy food. We'll be good.
To Canada now, where the Conservative campaign moved to the East Coast with a promise to create a pre-approved national energy corridor to speed up infrastructure projects. But to get in a thorough update on what's happening in battleground Canada, Maha Siddiqui joins us live from Vancouver at the moment. Maha, take us through what we need to know.
As far as this energy corridor is concerned, Parmeshwar, energy remains a very core issue at the moment because of the trade war with the US. Energy is a leverage that Canada has over the United States, and the trade deficit that US sees with Canada is in the energy sector. So much so that we'd seen the sharp reaction coming in from the US when Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, had said that there'll be a surcharge on electricity going down south to the US. So that is the leverage that Canada has over US. However, when it comes to within Canada, between the East Coast and the West Coast, we are seeing a lack of pipelines, which Canada now feels is something that it needs to work on. And that is why we are seeing Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre promising that. But there could be concerns here, considering that it appears that the Conservative Party might be indicating that there could be a weakening, say, of impact assessment, something that might not go down well with a large section of Canadians who are very particular about the extractive policies in the country with regards to resources, and they want it done in a sustainable manner. So that could clearly come as a hurdle in the plans that Pierre Poilievre is pointing out too. Though he's saying that the Indigenous peoples, the First Nations will be included in this, but we know that a lot of resource extraction is from the First Nations, and their not just their involvement in policy making, but their complete agreement that resource extraction is done from the areas which are First Nations areas, as well as the fact that they are done in a sustainable manner, in a manner that does not require any sort of long-term huge impacts on environment and people. These are some of the other aspects that the Conservative Party will have to touch upon. The Conservatives are believed to push for more development and infrastructure issues, as Pierre Poilievre is pointing out. But here in Canada, the development, as people want, with sustainability needs to be maintained. So that clearly at the current moment is an issue. Moreover, Parmeshwar, at this juncture, what we're also seeing within the Conservative Party is some sort of a misalignment in their campaign policy. A lot of their own people now, as some of the channels, especially CBC, is quoting sources as saying, are uncomfortable with the manner in which the campaign is being conducted, especially with regards to a large focus on domestic policies. Whereas at the moment, the overarching issue is the trade war with America, and they believe that that should be the real focus.
Maha, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the lowdown. With that, let's turn our attention now to Paris, where a court has found far-right leader Marine Le Pen and 8 members of the European Parliament from her National Rally Party guilty of embezzling EU public funds, a verdict that could jeopardize her political future and also hopes of leading the country. She's accused of misusing European Parliament funds meant for parliamentary aids to pay party staff between 2004 and 2016. This verdict comes as a hammer blow to the leader's presidential hopes and an earthquake for French politics. Le Pen plans to appeal the verdict, and adding that the ruling was a violation of the rule of law. Just listen in to what she had to say, followed by my colleague Ross Cullen's report from Paris.
La Cour suprême, c'est le peuple. Et aucun juge ne peut décider d'interférer dans une élection aussi importante que l'élection présidentielle en violant l'état de droit, c'est-à-dire en rendant exécutoire une décision qui normalement devrait être suspendue par un appel.
Historic day on Monday for French domestic politics as the far-right opposition leader Marine Le Pen found guilty of the embezzlement of European Union funds and sentenced to 4 years in jail, 2 years suspended, 2 years to be served wearing an electronic tag, a fine of $108,000, and most significantly, she has been banned from running for public office in France for 5 years, effective immediately. That means it's going to be very complicated for her to run for president in 2027. She has run previously 3 times, all unsuccessfully, in 2012, 2017 and 2022, and she said this time would be her 4th and final tilt and attempting to land the top job in France, but it's going to be very tricky for her to be able to get on the ballot paper as a result of this decision on Monday. There has been a crisis meeting all day on Monday at the National Rally's party headquarters here in the French capital between Marine Le Pen and her party's president, 29-year-old Jordan Bardella, and all eyes will be on him now. He might be the man to step in to replace Marine Le Pen as the National Rally's candidate for French president in 2027. He has called for a popular and peaceful mobilisation, and we will see in the coming days if there are protests and marches in support of Marine Le Pen. We've heard from a party spokesman on Monday who said the decision by the judges was sleazy and disgusting, but the European Union thought there was a case to answer. They brought this trial in November 2024. She has gone on trial, has been found guilty, and so this verdict has been applied to her. Her legal team say that they will be, however, appealing against that decision. Ross Cullen, NDTV, Paris.
Thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.